Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corkin here. I am the co-host of this show where we feature top entrepreneurs and business leaders sharing their stories. We've got lots of great episodes in the archives, so check them out here. And of course, this particular episode brought to you by EO San Francisco, which is the Bay Area chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global peer-to-peer network of more than 18,000 influential business owners with 200 chapters, 60 plus countries. So if you are the founder, co-founder, owner, or controlling shareholder of a company that generates over $1 million a year in revenues and want to connect with other like-minded, successful entrepreneurs, EO is for you. And the EO San Francisco chapter, which has been around since 1991, today has over 100 members in industries ranging from marketing to agriculture, tech, professional services, you name it. To learn more about how it works or to come do a test drive with us, you can go to eonetwork.org/San Francisco. And of course, this episode also brought to you by my company, Rise25, where we help B2B businesses get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with Done For You podcasts. And I am a member of the board and also a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, proud member of Entrepreneurs Organization. And my guest here today is Jim Lutz. He's the founder of Vaya Adventures. He, like I, is a recovering lawyer who went into entrepreneurship. So we'll talk about the perils and the benefits of being a recovering lawyer and becoming an entrepreneur. Jim, such a pleasure to have you here today. And I love to first start by learning a bit about what people were like as a kid. And you were a competitive swimmer, worked really hard at that, and actually ended up going and swimming at Harvard. Not too shabby, except if you have to do it in February in an outdoor pool, I imagine. But tell me a little bit about what that was like growing up. Were you just like every day in the pool kind of thing?
I grew up in New Jersey, so it couldn't be every single day in the pool, at least outdoors as it is out here in California. But when I was young, it was mostly summer leagues, and then as I got going into later grades, it became swimming in the winters as well. And then by high school, it was swimming 2 hours every morning from 5:45 to 7:45, and then from 6 to 7:30 at night, 5 days a week, and 2 hours on Saturday morning. So it was
a lot of swimming.
It was a lot of swimming, and that was my life. Yeah, through high school. But it was great. I happened to live 3 blocks from the team that was state champs in the high school, state champs in New Jersey. So it was nice to be able to fall into that program really, and then everybody kind of pushed each other and motivated each other. So it was a lot of fun. We used to all shave our heads for state championships.
And you also were raised around a lot of lawyers. You had a lot of lawyers in your family. So you
Yes.
didn't see entrepreneurship in your future. You saw practicing law in your future.
That's true. I come from a family of lawyers. My dad, my brother, my uncles, my cousins, all lawyers. There's not a single entrepreneur that I could name in my family. No one in business really at all. And that was the path I thought, I would follow, and that I wanted to follow. So yeah, I never really thought otherwise. And only later, when it was when I got in there and was practicing law and realized, I'm not sure this is for me. And there's more to the story. But I had traveled around. After I got out of college, I spent 3 years outside the United States. I was going to spend 1 year outside the U.S. and just go learn Spanish in Spain. So I went over there, spent a year over there, got pretty good, good in Spanish, spending 1 year just intensively studying Spanish, traveling around. And then I realized at the end of that year, I went to Morocco, and then kind of the lights went on for me as far as travel and seeing the world and what the world can offer. And then I said, you know what? I don't think I'm ready to go to law school yet. I think I'm going to see if I can find a job in South America where I can get the Spanish to some more level of greater fluency. And 1 year turned into 2. I ended up getting a job that was like a Peace Corps type job in Quito, Ecuador. And those are 2 great years. And then I did go to law school at the end of that. But at that point, I had now sort of laid a foundation for the future of the travel business, I think, but without even knowing it.
You realize there's a lot bigger world than in the Garden State, and it seems like you're a bit you were definitely bit by the travel bug. If this was your life, if you lived abroad for 3 years before going to law school.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I was definitely bit by the travel bug, and just getting out into the world and seeing more of it. I mean, when I went to law school, I thought, I had in mind international law, which, I thought sounded good, international law. There was a little bit of a be careful what you wish for, I think, on that one, because international law can be a lot of things. Some of it probably great. Some of it is big corporate international business deal law, which is a lot of documents and not that exciting.
Not as exciting as it sounds like it might be.
Yeah, not as exciting as as the label
probably actually requires more hours in the office because of its complexity.
Yep. It was, it did get me to travel a little bit. I took a firm with a summer position with a New York law firm that did a lot of international project finance. They sent me, I was in half the summer in New York City and half the summer in New Delhi.
Okay.
And so at the end of that, I got to go up to the Himalayas, got another little taste of what really getting out into the world can be.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just, those were the times when I felt like I really came alive, was in all of that. I eventually went, I didn't really love the corporate. I didn't like the corporate, project finance stuff. And then in the law, I tried out some different things. I worked in the DA's office in LA for a while, for a year. And then I worked for a, entertainment litigation firm that had various clients, such as my boss had a lot of big entertainment industry clients like Axl Rose, Snoop Dogg. I worked on a bunch of different Snoop Dogg cases.
A bunch of different Snoop Dogg cases. Now we can't avoid Snoop Dogg. He's in every single advertisement on television. It seems like he's done quite well with his personal brand.
He's everywhere.
Any crazy stories? Any crazy entertainment industry stories? You don't have to name the name of the celebrity if you can repeat, if you can don't have to.
I mean, the reality is I did interact with Snoop Dogg. I spent one entire day with him one time in a small courtroom related to a lawsuit that was brought by Suge Knight. I don't know if anyone remembers Death Row Records, but Suge Knight was one of the founders of Death Row Records, and his wife was Sharitha Knight, was claimed to be the personal manager of Snoop Dogg, but he said she really never acted as the personal manager. So it was a lawsuit over whether or not he owed her money. There was a lot of litigation around Snoop Dogg in this type of thing. And, and none of it, it was, a lot of it was not, there was just like any other lawsuit, wasn't necessarily the sexiest, thing going on. And sure, in LA, it was LA law for sure, given the people involved and everything else. But it was, practicing law, bare knuckles litigation in Los Angeles, which, again, I did that for 2 years and realized
this wasn't
sure this is for
it
me.
wasn't for me. And meanwhile, this is 99. This is the .com boom all over California. You're in LA at the time. And did you feel like, okay, I got to go pursue this? I'm going to miss this opportunity. What was going through your mind as far as what you're going to pursue?
This is late so I started practicing at that firm in the late 90s, and then as it got into really the late 90s, the .com bubble was really very inflated. I saw a lot of people leaving the law, a lot of people going and doing things like biz dev. That was the phrase a lot of people use for what you can do as a former lawyer. And I at some point I realized I just don't want to do this, and I don't have the time to figure out what I can, what I'm going to do next, but I need to get out of this and then figure it out. So, and I left the law. I picked a date, went into my partner's office, and I knocked on the door and said, Bert, can I talk to you? And he said, uh-oh. And very smart guy, very perceptive. And I told him that I wanted to leave, and he was very supportive, and I ended up leaving the law and ending up I left there and went to Chile. I decided to go work for a nonprofit in Chile that was working with entrepreneurs. Figured I'd get back to South America, see what I could, maybe I could figure out a company I could work for. then the dot-com bubble burst. I was in Chile in early 2000, and by May, or it was sometime around May or June, the dot-com bubble burst.
Yeah, those were April 2000 or something. It was like the peak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. April 2000, and then all the jobs dried up. There wasn't really anything to be getting a job in there. So I decided to go back to school. I had no experience in business, but I thought business could be fun, and it'd be an opportunity to take a couple of years and figure out how I can pivot into that and maybe study entrepreneurship and figure out a business that I could start. And that's what I did.
So you figured Harvard, then law school, more schooling will certainly, on top of all that, will solve all my problems. So
it does seem like too much school sometimes when I think about it. On the other hand, it helped me figure it out. So
that's what I say about, being a recovering lawyer is you figure out that you can figure out everything, that no matter what the challenge is ahead of you, you can do the research, you don't have all the answers at your fingertips, but you can do the research and you can figure out most of it. And I think that it gives you a lot of confidence as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it does. It definitely helps with problem solving and critical thinking and that type of thing, which has been valuable along the way.
And so by the time you got to near the end of your MBA, you knew you wanted to start a business, but you didn't know what that business would be. And I think it was within about a month of graduation, did you have an epiphany? Or you decided that it was going to be that you were still passionate about travel and you wanted to have to do with travel?
Yeah. Yes, I had spent the better part of business school working on a business plan that it did involve Latin America. It involved a woman who had a small chain of home furnishing stores that imported things from Central America and Mexico. And I worked with her on a marketing research plan, on the business plan class at Northwestern, where I went to business school. It was great, and I thought this is a viable possibility. I could go into business with this woman and kind of help her grow this business. I still think that actually would have been a good, that would have been a good road to go. But when I was towards the end of business school, I did a spring break trip to Brazil. And on that trip, I remember being in Rio de Janeiro. And I had, at this point, spent a lot of time in South America, the 2 years in Ecuador, half a year in Chile. I'd been back down several times for different climbing trips and other things. And I realized at some point flying out of Rio de Janeiro, I definitely had the sort of epiphany light bulb, moment where I said, I've been down here enough and I speak Spanish now. Like I could start a travel company. And it's, it was definitely one of those cases of there's no looking back, as soon as I had the idea that was pretty much, I couldn't get the idea out of my head, and immediately started really just digging in on like, okay, is this feasible? And I realized it's actually a not very capital intensive business. It's not that hard to get in. It's not low barriers to entry. And, it's very competitive. It's a volatile industry. But it's a fun industry, and it's fascinating, and you do get to do all the things that you love. You do get to do them. I mean, I remember at some point thinking, I thought to myself, should I do this? And I thought, I think, so what I can do is go visit a whole bunch of lodges in the Amazon and then figure out which one's the best one, and then pay me to tell them which is the best one. Yeah, I said okay. Sign me up.
Not too hard. Of course, this was you're graduating in 2002. Not the best economy, and I imagine at that point your network. Well, you probably knew some people still who are lawyers and things like that, but a lot of your network at that point is other broke grad students who are graduating with a lot of debt from their business school. How did you get clients in those early days? How did you get people to sign up for your trips?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I when I launched the business, the very first thing I did was go to the New York Times travel show. I was in New York at the time. I had moved to New York after business school, so I was in Manhattan, and the New York Times travel show was right there in Manhattan in early 2004 when I launched the business. And I went to had a booth, had a small trifold brochure, and I got my first clients from that show. And then, not long into that year, paid search was really coming into its own.
2004. Wow.
Yeah. I think I don't know exactly when the sort of momentum grew for Google with paid search as the primary source of their revenue, which I think it's still about 80% of Google's revenue is paid search, which I don't think people even really know that or even understand what it is, where they get all of their money, but that's still the big driver of the business. And, and when I saw that, I tried it out and, it worked. I did get some, referrals from friends and other, marketing efforts I did. I think I put a couple of ads here and there and, got the word out as best I could and went to some other travel shows. And that worked to some degree. The first year was very slow. I mean, I think I had, I think probably the first year I sold just a few trips. The second year.
And these are group trips, like a couple of people together?
Private custom travel. And it was all focused on South America. And it was only focused on a few destinations in South America, specifically Ecuador and the Galapagos, which has become our biggest destination and still is, and Peru, which is Machu Picchu, Patagonia in Chile, and then some Central American destinations. But we were very focused in South America, which I knew well. And, and then it just started to take off, by over time, by after a couple of years, it was, 13, 14 hour, 15-hour days for a couple of years, trying to doing everything, no employees, one-man show. And then by about 2006, I moved out to California. And at that point, I realized it's way too much for me to handle. So I got hired my first employee and got an office in Berkeley, and just been building it since then.
And did you reach a point? There's the great book which is behind me here, The E-Myth, by Michael Gerber, which tells the story of this baker who loves baking cakes. So she starts a bakery. And then she finds herself doing everything but the thing that she loved, which was baking the cakes. Did you run into that with your business where, I got into this because I love travel and I love going, exploring new places, and all of a sudden I'm managing people and I'm looking at spreadsheets instead of going on trips?
I wouldn't say that happened for, I don't know that that's actually happened at any point. I mean, it's not, and not that I was traveling so much either. I mean, I started a family and I was really only traveling a few weeks a year to check out new places and visit with suppliers and heading down to South America. I just, every year I would take some, fairly lengthy trip, multi-week trip. So I got some every year. I got to keep taking these trips and I appreciate it. I think I lived all those years, no matter how hard I was working, what I was doing, with a sense of I had kind of dodged a bullet and I was grateful for what I had. And I was totally good to put in the hours and then the business, you start hiring more employees. It gets exciting that the business is succeeding and you're able to have employees and pass off some things. And I mean, sometimes you wish you could, get out on the road some more. But then again, really for the most part, a lot of that is with my kids, who are now teenagers. So it's the thing that was really keeping me more at home.
And then,
more than anything else.
I know with Vaya, it says right on your website, you specialize in tailor-made travel. And from a business perspective, from a customer's perspective, that's awesome because the customer comes in, they want to do it exactly how they want to do it, want something specific, unique to them, that sort of thing. From a business perspective, there's always a tension because, creating something more systematized and routine allows you to put systems in place and doesn't require as much, research and labor up front. How have you balanced those two, the tension between those two things?
Yeah, it is there is a tension there. Trying to grow a business that's such with so much customization poses, I think, various challenges. I think that it took quite a few years for me to try and figure out how we could actually start to grow this business a little bit more rapidly. I mean, I didn't really want to try and grow it very fast, and so we could maintain quality control and remain very personalized. In the end, it was all about having the right people and having the right systems in place. Once you get your databases set up the right way and your CRM set up the right way and the itinerary creation database and the different things speaking to each other, and then get the right people who really know the destinations. Well, and then the leads are coming in from pay-per-click and from other sources, mainly pay-per-click, and then getting repeat and referral off of the original business that you got. It's a matter of just making sure you staff up. You can't really grow really fast without compromising quality, I think, in this industry. So we haven't tried to grow really fast. And as we've added new destinations around the world, which we expanded to do, quite a few other destinations. And, we grew from 12 people pre-COVID to 6 people in COVID when I thought the business would probably fail completely. And
tell me about that.
Points.
So, what was it like for you in March of 2020 when the world shut down and the borders were closed down? And, what was that like?
It was not fun. And I know that many other businesses, went through similar, trials, but it was very challenging. I had, the same 3 kids I have now and mortgage and, my wife had gone back to school to switch careers from her business career to become a social worker. So it was challenging for sure. Definitely woke up on, different nights, like in the cold sweat, like, okay, what am I going to do now? But
some businesses like restaurants and things like that pivoted to food delivery or something like that. Did you consider that, or did you pivot to anything else, or was there something you could pivot into?
I'll tell you, there were various companies in our space that pivoted to doing closer at home trips. That was something that some companies did. I thought about doing that,
like domestic trips.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Doing North America trips, because they're fairly quickly within a few months. I'd say, 6, maybe summer, late 2020. I think you started to see people doing some of that, or it was on the horizon that people could do more of that type of travel around, within the U.S. and close by. I didn't really see it as something that was going to go anywhere. I looked into it. We benefited from the fact that the Galapagos Islands, which was our number 1 destination, opened up a lot earlier than most destinations. It's a very contained, isolated place. People could fly into Quito, stay in a hotel room that was, just one night in the city, not really go out and interact with many people, and the next day be in the Galapagos Islands on a small ship. Often we booked a lot of charters that year where people would go with their friends. They'd all know each other. So you'd have 16 people who all knew each other on one ship. And those are great bookings. They were big bookings, of booking a yacht in the Galapagos Islands for a week with 16 people. And we booked a bunch of those that year. So that starting in around 2021, at some point we started to see a bit of an uptick, and into 2022, then things started to open up. You saw the light on the horizon at some point there. And somewhere in there, I realized, this business that had been mom and pop and small and, 12 people pre-COVID and now was down to 6. It was a business that had a lot of potential. I knew the industry. I'd been in it for a while now, and my kids are older, and I'm feeling like, wow, there's some exciting possibilities to do what we did in Ecuador, and what we did in South America, and do it around the world. And then cross-sell the destinations, a much better opportunity. I had seen other companies in our space do exactly that and had grown, to be many times our size. They had become big companies, really, with hundreds of employees. And not that I wanted to get to that size, but I could tell that there were basics of this proposition of cross-selling, having more to offer. It's pretty basic, really.
Yeah.
So I decided to do that, and I decided that what we would do to maintain quality is not take our South America staff and send them on a trip to Africa and start selling Africa safaris. What I would do is hire people who were a lot like our, veterans of our, our destination specialists who had many years many of them lived in South America and had spent a lot of time there and were deeply connected to it. Do the same thing for the other regions, and to hire someone who'd lived in Africa and had been selling African safaris for many, many years and traveled all over the continent, had done been to 30 countries in Africa. And that's what I did. And so we did that, and then that grew, and we added, bit by bit, I realized that kind of the quicker I can get this thing up to have multiple destinations, adding Asia and Europe, the more I'm going to have to offer to people. So it should gather some momentum. But in the short term, I'm going to have to make some investments.
Yeah, in the short term, it's expensive doing that sort of thing. Hiring someone, not knowing if they're. Did you have a test? Like, did you email people who'd been on previous South American trips with you and say, hey, would you, if I put together a trip to a safari in Africa, is that the sort of thing that you did, or?
We knew we had a base of people, because now we had a database with, thousands and thousands of people in it, and many of whom had been asking over the years, do you guys do trips to Africa? Do you guys do trips to Asia? Do you do them to Europe? So we knew that there was some demand within our own community, really in our database to offer those trips. And we had good success with doing, our marketing in PPC, and had the sense that we could sort of wade in with Africa, pay-per-click marketing as well, do the same thing we had done. We had learned that it's expensive. It was more expensive for Africa than it had been for Latin America. It had definitely had some challenges, but, it really was a matter of just deciding, I still am fair, the sky could fall in travel, anything could happen. The next calamity, it's not a matter of, if, it's a matter of when. It could be regional, it could be global, it could be, who knows, you don't know. And you live with that in this industry, I think, which is.
Yeah. And that's the nature of it, right? I mean, people are getting on planes, they're getting on small planes, they're getting on trains, they're getting in cars, they're going away from their little bubble. That's part of what travel is about, experiencing the world. How do you, as the owner of this business, you mentioned sleeping at night. How do you sleep at night knowing that, that you're responsible for all these people out there? How do you mitigate the risk to manage it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, we learned over many years how to do it in South America, and we've applied that same thing to the other destinations. You hire people. It's all, as with most businesses, it's about the people you hire. We have a great team. People are very experienced, who have been, working in these regions for many years. So they come into Vaya in some cases with more experience than Vaya even has in some cases in South America. I mean, some of these people have been in the industry for a long time. So, they're adding expertise and experience to know how to set up systems and set up relationships. And it's really the partners we have on the ground, and they've been around for a long time in some cases. I mean, I'll be going down to Peru in April for a company that's, our oldest partner of the whole business. The first partner I had for Peru trips. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary. They've been around a long time, and, they know how to run things on the ground. They're great. They have great contacts. They run very responsibly, very safely. And we have partners like that now all over. That's what we look for. So, people who help us operate our trips. So it's a lot to manage, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What are you most excited about as you look to the future? We're recording this end of 2024, heading into 2025. What are you excited about?
Yeah. I'm excited to see, how this, the business unfolds. I mean, just in terms of the business itself, to see how we can grow the business and maintain our values and culture, which we've been able to do, which has been exciting to see, right? I feel like we've now grown the business. We have 30 some employees now. We're offering, 40 or, more than 40 destinations and countries worldwide. And, adding new ones. And, there's a lot of exciting new destinations we'll be offering. We added just this past year, Japan, India, Nepal, Croatia, Switzerland. We'll be adding, a variety of new places, Sri Lanka, Indonesia.
That's a lot of destinations. Have you added a destination yet that Jim hasn't been to?
Yeah, I'm at several of those I have not been to.
I guess that makes it exciting, right? You got to.
Yes, that makes it exciting for sure. I mean, yeah, I've had the opportunity to go to. Yeah, I mean, and then it comes down. What's exciting is the opportunity to get out and see more of the world. I mean, and do the thing that really got me going in this in the first place. I mean, I've had one thing I'm very excited about is to be able to take my kids on more trips now that they're getting a bit older. I took my daughter to South Africa 2 summers ago, for example, just the two of us. And we went on safari and just had an amazing experience. Hope to do that with my 2 boys, at some point in these coming years, and just to see, other parts of the world I haven't seen. So,
yeah. And
share that with more and more people.
I'm such a fan of travel. I have 4 kids, so they've kind of ruined my game as far as travel comes. I feel like I traveled a lot more before I had kids, but nevertheless, we've done some domestic travel, gotten the kids out of their little bubble, and there's something wonderful about getting people into new experiences, meeting new cultures. We were in Montana and went to a rodeo this past summer, which is very different, for them culturally to kind of see that experience, and so it's just it's something that's so cool and it's fun. It's amazing that you get to share that with other people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's definitely one of the highlights of the business is these are some of the most meaningful experiences in people's lives. I mean, I truly think that by the end of people's lives, they'll look back and some of the things they did traveling around on these trips will be some of the most meaningful things they ever did. I mean, they'll say, I got to see those places, and it's one of the, and you get to help them with that, share that with them, connect with them, related to that. And then also have all the relationships you develop in all of these places, which is you're getting to connect with people around the world in a very positive way. It's like the best of what humans are capable of, really connecting and, and positive things related to culture and art and nature and, the best things in life.
It makes a more caring world when we understand people from other societies, from other countries as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Jim, this has been a lot of fun learning about your background and Vaya Adventures. Where can people go to learn more about you and check out some of your upcoming trips?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Our website is www.vayaadventures.com, VAYA adventures.com. And appreciate the conversation.
You got a great list of trips there from South America to Africa to going to the poles, Central America, Europe, Asia, you name it. Really cool. So go check out his website. Jim, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.